Hey everybody, now we're here for that classic 1938 drama, Jezebel, starring Bette Davis, Henry Fonda, and George Brent. Now, in 1850 New Orleans, Southern belle Julie Marsden, Bette Davis, bucks a lot of social conventions as she tries to do things her own way. She is engaged to banker Press Dillard, Henry Fonda, who disagrees with her, but seems more prone to giving in to her. However, things come to a head on the night of the Olympus Ball, when Julie plans to wear a red dress instead of the traditional white dress that she was expected to wear. Press isn't thrilled, but he goes along with it when he sees that she refuses to back down. Once there, however, she starts to regret her decision as everyone else shuns her. But Press forces her to take her medicine and stay there dancing with him. Now, afterwards, they break their engagement and Press leaves New Orleans on business. Now, after a year has passed, Julie has barely left her house, even as yellow fever is starting to hit New Orleans. Dr. Livingston, as played by Donald Crisp, encourages her and her Aunt Belle, Fay Bainter, to go to her plantation at Halcyon, but she really doesn't want to go. However, she changes her mind when she hears that Press is coming back and starts making plans for a big party. But when Press arrives, he brings along his new wife, Amy, Margaret Lindsay, which upsets Julie. Now, as the party goes on, she goads her friend Buck Cantrell, George Brent, into trying to pick a fight with Press. But Press has to leave on business, and so his brother Ted, Richard Cromwell, ends up challenging Buck to a duel. When Buck is killed in the duel and Press comes down with yellow fever, Julie is forced to reconsider her selfish actions. Now, Jezebel generally receives a lot of comparisons to Gone with the Wind, which was actually in production at the same time. Jezebel was actually based on a Broadway play that had flopped, that had actually been done before the novel of Gone with the Wind was published. Warner Brothers was able to get the rights pretty cheaply, but that only happened after the novel of Gone with the Wind had become a big hit. And they decided to give Jezebel to Bette Davis and teamed her up with director William Wyler, whose frequent retakes allowed Bette Davis to improve her performance over time. Now, due to the similarity between the stories, Gone with the Wind producer David O. Selznick worried about how Jezebel would affect his own movie's performance. Of course, history has shown that David O. Selznick had nothing to worry about, as Gone with the Wind has become one of the biggest and most popular movies of all time. Now, to be honest, I was very hesitant going into this movie. I'd never really been much of a fan of Bette Davis. Sure, I've seen a handful of her films, including her appearance in the previously reviewed Thank Your Lucky Stars. But as a whole, I just kind of tend to avoid most of her films. With this movie, I was a little more willing to try it out, since I know Warner Archive Collection's reputation for their Blu-ray releases. Plus, I've been waiting 4 long years to see more of the Warner-owned 30s movies given a Blu-ray release. I wanted to support this one in hopes of continuing to see more of their films from that decade. All I can say after having seen this movie now is that it was worth every penny. Sure, as a movie about the Old South, it's not exactly the most politically correct, especially when it comes to how the slaves are treated in the movie. But the movie is well worth seeing just to see Bette Davis's Oscar-winning performance. I admit, I was entranced right from the start, and not only that, I now have a strong desire to see more of Bette's filmography. Starting with the recently released Warner Archive release of the Lair, if I can get to that one sometime soon. Now, while Jezebel has certainly been compared time and time again to Gone with the Wind, I think this movie is good enough to stand on its own 2 feet. And for those that like to dream of what things would have been like if Bette Davis had played Scarlett O'Hara instead of Vivien Leigh, this is as close as you're going to get. Again, I strongly suggest seeing this movie if you get the chance. As I said, Warner Archive has released this movie on Blu-ray and previously on DVD as well. Now, Now, since this was my first viewing, I don't know what the transfer was like on DVD firsthand. I've heard it was definitely in need of a lot of work. For this Blu-ray, Warner Archive put in a lot of work going with the nitrate lavender fine elements, since the original camera negative was gone, and it certainly paid off. The movie looks fantastic, almost if it was filmed yesterday. At least if movies made that recently were filmed in black and white. But seriously, I can't recommend this release enough. Not just for the movie, but for the wonderful restoration here too. Now, the movie itself is 1 hour and 44 minutes in length. That's all I have to say on this one, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll keep coming back for more.